Broadcasting. Hot music, hot talk, and hot topics. All day, every day. 24/7. You don't want to miss a minute on Global Voice Broadcasting.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
That was such a good wind-up.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Into. This is our live interactive show about gay issues. I'm your resident psychotherapist, Matt Dempsey.
And I'm Jimmy Fowley. I'm a comedian, and we are here every Monday at 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and you can watch our show at www.into.show or follow us on social media at Into Talk Show.
That's right, and this is totally interactive. We want to talk with you, so please call in. The number is 323-522-5482, and we'd love to hear questions.
And without further ado, we're just going to jump into it. Tonight's topic is
dating.
I didn't know if we were going to say it at the same time.
Try to make a little song out of it. Yeah, we're talking about dating tonight. This is actually the second time we've talked about dating.
This is part two. I think there's a couple topics where we could actually pretty much do every single week. Oh, that's okay. You guys, this show.
It's live.
This show. Right.
This show.
Oh my God. It was so funny. Last week, we just we were talking, and then at one point, Gabe's like, oh, and we're off air. And so we're like, okay. We're
tech issues. But guess what? All kinds of issues come up here, and conflict, but also in relationships too. So what parallels there are, you know?
It's a perfect analogy. So Matt, in terms of dating, we had some questions.
We did. Why don't we just jump into some of the questions? So we had a question. Let's start out with an easy one. We had a question from @MatthewIsMyDad. And how could I not respond to somebody with a name like that too? Especially because I'm getting a lot of daddy comments these days. Anyway,
we should get you one of those Colton Hayes daddy hats.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you wear it?
Sure.
Okay.
Totally.
Good to know.
@MatthewIsMyDad wants to know, where's the best place to go on a date with someone you just asked out?
For me, it's funny. I was talking to a couple of my friends, and I think a coffee date is pretty easy because it's not too much of a commitment. Because I've gone on dinner dates where you're and pretty quick if there's a connection. And when you go on the date and you're like, oh my God, I just want this to be done. And my friend Tess, not only will she do a coffee date, but she'll say that she has yoga after, which is a little white lie. I don't know how you feel about that. But just to make sure it doesn't feel like you're not held hostage to a super long date.
Totally, yeah. I actually agree with that. That's kind of my own personal practice too, is just have it be super casual, super easy. Go grab a coffee or whatever, because it's just an opportunity just to meet up, chat, see how it even feels, and you get to hang out for maybe a half hour or an hour or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think you need to even say anything about yoga or what you're doing afterwards.
To me, I'm what does it even matter? If it goes longer than an hour, it seems like on its own it would just end at that point.
Yeah. You don't. I don't think you have to create any lie or any excuse. You can just say, let's meet up. Let's grab coffee. It'd be great to chat.
Yeah.
And then
I just think it's kind of cute that she has this yoga thing. Because it's what are you trying to make it seem like you're more active, or is that a turn on?
Maybe. Well, okay. So after you do that initial meeting, and if you feel like that person is somebody that you want to hang out with again, what would you do?
If it is a connection?
Yeah.
I mean, at that point we have each other's information, so I feel just to be well, yeah, we should hang out. We should hang out sometime.
Would you be the first one to suggest it? Would you wait? What do you do?
I don't know. I'm not super strict. I feel like it's actually less common that I'm in that situation where it's okay, we're feeling the vibe. Let's do this again. So I think the harder thing is when you're not feeling the vibe and you're I don't know how to just get out of this, Yeah. I think my trick to get out of it is to be well, what you got going on the rest of the day? Is kind of the perfect. And then I'm very wary to give my tricks away, because either it'll get back to me or
everyone's gonna know now.
Anytime I go on a date, they'll be oh, it's the kiss of death. But not even that it's bad, but it's you're just okay, I'm ready to go.
Totally. I don't think you have to do it. I don't think you have to make up excuses for any part of it. You can just say.
But even just like kind of a transition out of it, like it's like kind of come to an end. You know?
By the time it's starting to wrap up, or you're feeling that it's kind of just organically wrapping up, just say like, hey, look, I got to head out, but it was great meeting you. You know, I'll talk to you soon. You know, and if you're not into it, then just kind of let it trail off. If you don't hear from them, then probably might mean the same thing too. And for me, if I am interested, I don't play the whole game of like waiting too long. I'll reach out to them and just say like, hey, it was really great meeting you. If you ever want to grab dinner sometime, let me know. I'd love to take you out or whatever. If they reach out to you and you're not totally feeling it, I think it's totally fine to say, hey, it was really great meeting you. Not sure that I'm that interested, in something more, but but it was great meeting you.
Have you ever felt like, because I feel like sometimes what comes up is people, instead of, like, you say that so easily because you have good, communication skills and you have the confidence to say that, but a lot of people are like, would rather just kind of ghost or be like, I'm in kind of a weird place, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, totally. So I think that's so good that you're just like direct.
Well, and that took a lot of mindfulness and practice for me to be able to get to that point. So I'm certainly not suggesting that this is really easy stuff to just, just do that. But it is really helpful for us to take that approach because we don't have to make up excuses. We don't have to find kind of little defenses to navigate our way out of something or through a situation because, we just want to just be upfront and we know that if we're not interested, that's okay. It's not nothing about me. It's nothing about you. It's cool.
Yeah.
Generally, when you're that upfront too, what I've found is that people are incredibly responsive and appreciative of it. When you start dancing around, you can feel that.
Yeah.
And that feels terrible when somebody's trying to dance. I know that doesn't feel good for me, so I just want to be upfront too.
Well, I would rather have someone be like, I'm not attracted to you, than to be like, I don't know, I'm just in this weird place, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. I would too. My thing is, I just kind of like to say, I'm not sure that this feels like the right fit for me.
Yeah.
That's it. That could mean any number of things, and it doesn't have to be so specific, and, because then other people's imaginations can run wild. And if somebody said that to me, I'd be like, okay, cool, hope, I'll say hi if I see you around. Or
what would you do if someone, kind of pressed the issue? They're like, well, what was not, the right fit about it? Because I'm really feeling a connection.
I would probably just say, I'm not entirely sure what it is, but for whatever reason, I just think that particular chemistry is not there for me. You are, it was great to meet you, but it's just not there for me. And if they kept pressing, then I don't know. I'd probably just maybe not respond after that or something.
I have an obsession of seeing how Matt will handle getting out of dates.
Where would you actually go though if you if it was time for a real date? Like
for
dinner or something.
A dinner date? There's a couple spots by my house.
But generally, what kind of place? Yeah, because not everybody lives in LA.
Oh, yeah. I'm about to say specific places you guys, go to the Village Idiot. I think dinner is good because you can talk to them. But actually, I prefer a movie because then you can kind of have something you experience this thing, and I know it's 2 hours of not talking, but just by being close to the person, having that connection, and then after you're kind of recapping about the movie, or did you like it, did you not, and
that's true.
It's almost a shared experience.
Totally.
Which I think why movies are good.
It's kind of a nice way to ease into it too, because then you're not totally having to just automatically start off on conversation, which can maybe be a little intimidating sometimes.
Yeah.
And then also you've got something very concrete that both of you can talk about afterwards. So it could help ease into it. I just do a dinner. I just want to be able to talk to somebody and, get to know them in that way. And I generally do something that's, obviously not it's not crazy and expensive and too fancy. I don't want it to seem it's too much effort that's gone into it on that level. It's almost too overwhelming. But also probably something that's a little bit nicer.
Yeah. Do you have a date spot that you'll usually go the first date, or do you switch it up?
It just kind of depends. I've gone to what's it called? Petty cash. It's actually kind of like a little bit. It's a little bit nicer of a Mexican restaurant, but it's not too fancy.
Yeah.
But it's nice. You get to go and maybe like have a couple margaritas and like
Yeah.
get some like yummy Mexican food, and so it's somewhere kind of like middle of the road.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's kind of something like that.
Mm-hmm. And will you pay? Like if you ask the person out?
If I ask the person out, yeah. If somebody asks me out, I'm prepared to go Dutch.
Uh-huh.
And if they accept that, then I will take that into consideration moving forward.
Oh my God, Matt, I love it. Seriously. I'm sorry. Like, I think that's the worst when someone's like, hey, do you want to grab? Like, if I ask someone out, I will for sure pay. Because I'm like asking you to hang out with me.
Yeah, you're the one who's making the date.
If someone's like, hey, do you want to hang out? And I say yes. And then, like, the bill comes and they're like, I mean, should we just split it? It's just kind of like, I don't know. It, like, feels kind of weird.
I go to put my card down, and if they're like, no, this is on me, then I'll be like, no. And then I'll take it back and say, okay.
Yeah. It's like, it's like the, obligatory. Is that the right word?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like everyone does it, but it's like this weird like cultural thing.
Yeah. Shall we move on?
Yeah, let's do it. I feel like there's literally no one commenting on my Facebook Live. I keep looking down on it. It's like making me kind of sad.
Oh.
Usually there's that one guy who trolls us. Like I thought that he would at least be here.
What?
Right? You know who I'm talking about.
I don't know that I do. So we'll let that one go because we love all of our viewers. So, but I think we've actually got a live call. So why don't we take our call? Hello, caller, are you there? No.
He just hung up.
Okay.
You guys, what a spooky show this is turning into.
All right, well, you know what?
what's-
Let's jump to another question then. So, we had a question from @tailored247 who wants to know, what are your thoughts on traditional dating in comparison to modern day dating, like apps, social media, etc.?
Yeah, what do you think on that?
So yeah, I mean, what he's asking about is, you know, if you just typically meet somebody out at a bar or through friends and make a connection that way versus meeting somebody, having that initial first contact on, you know, like Tinder or whatever, Grindr or some other kind of like dating or hookup app. So I don't know. My thoughts on that is that it's really easy whenever there's something new introduced to the game that just is something new to kind of figure out and navigate. It's really easy to put a lot of blame on that. So like technology, right? I would say in general, like social media, everyone can be like, oh, social media is crap. Everybody's so self-involved and puts too much energy and effort. It's not really about the tool and the instrument itself. It's how you go about using it, and it's the intention.
Yeah.
And actually this is something that I've learned from our buddy over here, Ryan Chavo, who's like huge tech fan and supporter thereof, is that we have to keep in mind that all of this is real, and it's in its infantile stage. So we're still just figuring all of this stuff out and exactly how to use it and the best intentions behind using it for any number of things, including dating.
Yeah.
So it's easy to poo-poo the dating
Yeah.
stuff, but I think it's actually not so different from how you would traditionally meet somebody.
Do you have a preference? Like, have you ever gone on dates off Grindr? Are you?
I don't think I'm not sure that I've ever gone on off a. I know. I think I have gone on dates off of Grindr,
Have
but
you ever
and
hooked
Tinder.
up off Grindr?
Duh. Oh my God, all the sex, yeah. But for dating, yeah, that's also happened too, and I think it's fine. You know, I think you just kind of navigate things maybe similarly to how you otherwise would. I think we've got a call.
They're back.
Hey, caller, what's going on? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good. Hey, what's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Sam, and I'm calling from Manhattan Beach.
Sam,
Awesome. Hey, Sam.
Sam, didn't we talk to you once before?
Yes, you have.
Sam, I remember. Thanks for calling back.
Thanks for calling, Sam. What question do you have for us?
So about dating, what do you think is the longest time you should take a break after breaking up with someone before going back into dating? Before saying however much time you need. Obviously, I feel like that's the obvious answer. But
So
that's a great question. Like I've heard even just like people have said, and this is obviously like a huge generalization, but like whatever your relationship was, at least half the time to heal. Have you ever heard that?
I've heard so many different formulas
Yeah.
for this. I don't think that there's any specific concrete measurable formula that anybody can go off of, because every relationship is different and every person is different in terms of the time that we need to take to reflect and heal and give ourselves some space. I wish I could say that there was like a specific thing that you could go off of.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just don't know, and you just have to be able to check in with yourself to see where you're at, and then otherwise maybe just take a risk and put yourself out there and see. You'll know quick enough if it wasn't the right time, and then maybe you dial it back again for a little bit.
Are there any red flags, Matt, like in terms of like you're like on a date with someone and they're like, oh, I actually just got out of like a 4-year relationship, and they're like, and you're like, when? And they're like, oh, just 2 months ago. Like, is there any amount of time that you'd be like kind of skeptical?
That's a really good question. Nothing that's wildly, kind of clinically directed in terms of my perspective on it. It's not like that. There's really like some psychological measure that I could put in place to measure that. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think like if you're dating somebody for 4 years, I would probably think that maybe a few months. It might be too soon. But I think probably it has a lot less to do with the amount of time in terms of numbers. I would just be so much more curious about the intention behind it. And I would just have to talk to somebody.
The intention behind what? Like them going on the date?
The intention, behind them putting themselves back out there, dating, if they meet somebody new and are interested in exploring that. I would just be curious about that. I don't think that there's anything right or wrong. There's definitely people who have gotten into relationships like within weeks after a long-term relationship ended and are now starting something new that has been successful and has worked out. There's not a right or wrong answer to it.
The last person I dated was for 10 months. And I've tried dating other people, but it has not worked out. And I think part of it is because I'm still connected to the last person I'm dating, because that person is still for my phone plan. So we're still interested.
Yeah.
Sam, say that last part again. You said we're still.
Sam was just saying that there's some logical or kind of practical things that they're actually sharing, like a phone plan.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah.
Sam, I would just say that you don't necessarily have to. You don't necessarily have to figure all of those practical elements out before you can move on. So maybe that's a conversation that you can have. And then also I would just say, be sure to keep checking in on kind of where you're at and your intentions. Talk about it with friends too. So, Sam, thanks for calling in. We appreciate it. Always love hearing from you.
Thanks, Sam.
And it can be kind of challenging, Jimmy, with figuring out what that right time is, and especially when there's so many formulas that do float out around there.
Yeah. And there's like a quick, not to go too far off, but just one pop culture reference, like The Bachelorette, which I don't think you watch, but I love it. And JoJo, one of the guys who's in the final like 4, they were talking, and he was like, she was like, when it was your last, relationship, when did it end? Because he was in a 4-year relationship and they were engaged and everything. Oh. And he's like, it was December, and she's like, as in like 4 months ago. And he's like, yeah. And like when you do the math on the show, like the casting for this starts like at least 3 months. So he was like ending this relationship and getting involved in the show. So it was kind of like, oh my God.
Well, there's also a lot of people who don't even end their relationships and go on those shows, right?
Seriously.
Right?
Yes.
I've seen a little bit.
By the way, side note, someone commented on Facebook Live. Can I read it?
Yeah, please.
What do you think is the best way to transition from dating to seeing someone, i.e. the right time and best way to bring it up? So I think this is Eddie who commented. I think they're asking just like about making it official, I believe, like between like, just going on casual dates and then like really seeing them.
Oh, got it.
That's what I think it means.
Reread it again for me.
Him.
Eddie, if you're out there too, if you could just maybe clarify that a little bit. No, really, because I'm really curious about what the question is. So, but what does it say?
What do you think is the best way to transition from dating to seeing someone, i.e., the right time and best way to bring it up? And he just recommented
saying
he just said, "Yeah, that's right."
Okay, cool. Yeah. So when do you actually have the talk? Right.
What do you think?
I'm actually just really curious about your perspective first. What do you do?
Well, the last guy that I was like hanging out with, and I thought it could be something more. We actually, it was like within a month. We had maybe gone on like 4 or 5 dates, and And so I just told him, I was like, I don't know where you're feeling about this, but I'm, pretty into this, and like, I don't know what you're looking for, but I'd be, into us. Like, I forget how I said
That's
it.
awesome, though, Jimmy. That's like so brave because you're putting yourself out there and being vulnerable, even just saying it. How long had you, or how many times had you gone out?
Honestly, like, and that's the thing about dating, especially in LA. It's like, are we really dating, guys? Like, are we really dating? Like, is you coming to my house watching YouTube videos of like parachute fails? Like, that's not a date, but that's how I'm dating people,
Yeah.
And like going to people's houses and like watching a movie in their bed and then hooking up. It's like
Netflix
everything is
and
so
chill.
exactly, everything is so cash. Like, I think we went on one sushi date, but. Yeah, but
So it's one YouTube video, a Netflix and chill, a sushi date, and then you're ready to.
And then I'm ready to
home.
I'm ready to
Got it.
put a ring on this person's finger.
Yeah, that sounds like the right formula for Los Angeles, particularly.
It totally is.
Kind of going back to what I was saying before, I think the same rule applies, Eddie. I don't think that there is a specific amount of time that works for everybody, but I would say just to check in, and if you're feeling like the other person is kind of in the same place, and things are moving along kind of nicely, you've been on maybe like a few dates, then just bring it up at some point. That conversation doesn't have to be incredibly definitive. It can just be like, hey, I've been having an awesome time with you. I know that we've just been kind of seeing each other a little bit, but I just want to let you know where I'm at. Like, I'm kind of like, I'm really feeling this.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be where are you at? You know? We shouldn't put things out because we're looking to get something from somebody else. We just want to communicate so that people know where we're at, and then that will organically spawn its own conversation, and you'll be able to check in.
Yeah. Me and my roommate always joke that after like one hookup, we'll like turn to the person and be like, what is this? Like, just like it's nothing, and like pretending like we think it's something.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Ryan, did we have another call? Cool. Let's put him through. Hey, caller, are you there?
Yeah, this is Miguel. I'm calling from Denver.
Hey, Miguel.
Miguel, I'm pretty sure you're our first Colorado call.
Could be.
Oh,
so.
really?
Yeah.
This is kind of weird. I'm actually a pretty big fan of both of yours. I like both of your videos.
Oh, thanks,
I
Miguel.
watched all of Jimmy's videos.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, I guess my question is, what sort of dating advice would you give to someone who's been single for over 7 years? And this isn't about me. This is about someone else.
Is it, Miguel? I know there's a lag, but I just winked.
It really is about me. I'm just saying. It's just embarrassing to admit I've been single for that long.
I feel you. I've been single kind of for a while.
Mm-hmm. Jimmy, what advice would you give to somebody who's been single for 7 years?
Oh my God, I don't know, Matt. I think you should take this one because I've like hung out with people, but I wonder if like for me, like I need to do some like kind of work. Like I told you this, I'm going back to therapy to work on some stuff, and I personally don't think I've been able to connect with someone because I have my own stuff that I haven't really worked through. So I keep on repeating these patterns, and so I don't know, Miguel. I mean, have you asked people out? Have you hung out with people like and hooked up, or has it been pretty much like nothing?
No, I have. I mean, I've dated and I've hooked up and everything, but it's just I've been I haven't had an actual boyfriend for that long, and I mean I've kind of been doing the same thing. I've kind of been working on myself, and the last my 20s have been kind of a rocky set of like misadventure, and I don't think it would be fair to the other person to have been with anyone during that time. It was just a mess.
Miguel, let me ask you this. I actually come from the belief that we really are the experts on our own lives. So like if you had to say, what do you think has been some of the biggest challenges for you to connect with somebody for a relationship?
That's a good question.
I don't know. I think it's a lot of people, I just don't feel like they I don't know. I don't think a lot of people understand me. I'm also kind of intense. I'm kind of one of those people who get super attached right away, which is something that that's kind of gone away in the past year or two, thankfully. Because something that I tend to do is I will kind of get an idea of someone within the first couple dates, and I kind of romanticize it in my head, and then I don't. It's not a realistic. What I'm building in my head is not a realistic view of the person, because I'm not really seeing them for who they are. I'm just seeing them for who I built them up in my head as.
Yeah,
that's so good. Like, can I just say that you even have that insight to, like, acknowledge that?
Yeah.
Because that's like, I feel like that's so many of the steps, before you can,
Yeah. No, and I think also what you were saying too. Oh, I'm sorry, Miguel. Also, what you were saying too was that your 20s were kind of a bit of a rough patch, a little bit rocky, as they are for pretty much all of us, and especially for us gay guys too, because there's such a huge learning curve, especially in our 20s. I mean, for a lot of us, that's really the first time that we're even putting ourselves out there at all and getting to explore some things. So we're really learning a whole lot. There's going to be a whole lot of shit that's going to get stirred up for us, and we're going to flip-flop and, stumble all over the place. So I agree with Jimmy. The fact that you even have that perspective and that insight is such a huge first step, and perhaps maybe the reason why things have shifted for you a little bit over the last year based off of what you were saying too. Because when you have more of that insight, then that's when you're able to kind of practice some things about knowing how to, what we call distress tolerance, not just kind of reacting off of a feeling in an immediate way and, have that be the thing that's too intense, at the start of a relationship, but giving yourself a moment to breathe and then take it from there.
Yeah. And I mean, nice. I was saying, it has diminished a lot in the last year or two, but I mean, something that I'm not looking, I'm not looking for anything at all right now, because I'm still kind of focused on myself, but the big anxiety of mine is when I do decide to date again, it's probably going to be 8 years single. So how do you kind of angle that so it doesn't sound like
that's a good question.
Guy
I think
awful. It's terrible.
I mean, I think it's normal to have any of the concerns that you're having, especially if there's a long gap between maybe the last time that you've had a relationship to whatever could be coming up. And I also would not overwhelmingly spin in that insofar as much as you're able to manage that, because, that's just going to be something that will take away from your ability to just show up more authentically for whatever relationship could come. There's no real measure of anybody's value based on when the last time they had a relationship was or not. There can be any number of reasons for that. So try not to spend too much in that. And I say still just kind of maintain just the self-reflection and awareness that you have, and allow that to help guide you moving forward, so that you can be emotionally present, but also temper in some rational thinking too.
And ultimately, like, if you are looking for like that great connection, that great partner, would you really want someone who was like immediately shut you off just because you had been working on yourself and not dating for 8 years? Because to me, that seems like a person who's like if I really connected with someone and they're like, oh yeah, I haven't dated in 8 years, like, for me to be like, oh, they're crazy, I don't even want to, like, that would be, that wouldn't really speak to
I wouldn't think that either.
Yeah, so there you go.
So Miguel,
I just feel like it's a little bit of a red flag. Like, this guy might be emotionally unavailable, or he's just I don't know. Maybe I'm just fabricating.
No, I know what you mean.
Own anxiety into.
Totally. I mean, again, bring it back to self-reflection too. What are some of the judgments that come up for you around somebody who hasn't been in a relationship in a while? Because if you're able to sort through that and find a level of acceptance and peel back the judgment that's on that, then you'll also stop projecting that out onto other people too, and get incredibly fearful in dating. So, Miguel, thank you so much. Appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, Miguel, thank you for calling.
Yeah, that was a great question.
Yeah. And good luck.
Yeah, thank you. I actually can relate to some part of that too, because if there are times when I'm not in a relationship, it's easy for me to think, okay, am I not in a relationship because I just really haven't met somebody that does feel like the right fit? Or is there something wrong with me? Am I being too detached and unavailable? And it's easy to go back and forth with that.
And like we were talking about that when a couple weeks ago when I was saying how like my friend was like, just like date someone randomly, just like get in a relationship, to like date them for like a couple months, and you and Jesse were like, that sounds horrible. And it's like true. It's like dating someone just for the sake of it, you know?
Well, I wouldn't say date somebody just for the sake of it, but I would say just stay open to it, you know? Go on a date, you know? All you have to, like my good friend Bob always says to me, you only need to know if you want to see them one more time. So go on a date. If you want to see them one more time, make the next date. If you're kind of feeling like, I think that's good, then you can wrap it up in whatever way feels appropriate to you in that moment and directly. Hopefully we're doing this more directly.
Totally. And I think it's because it's easy to be like, you go on that one date and you're like, can I really picture them like, you know, being my husband? Like, I mean, I know that's like a little bit psychotic, but like I really will have those thoughts. Like,
well, and sometimes it's really easy for us to put the cart before the horse, as if that's going to be some really great gauge for that person in terms of being like an actual long-term relationship for us in some way. But we have to just be open and willing to get to know the person for who they are, not for the fantasy that we hoped them to be.
Yeah.
And that goes for an entire relationship with somebody. We have to be willing to date the person who's before us, not who we think they could be or what their potential is.
Yeah.
So.
Do you ever do that where you like dated someone and you're like, because obviously you're a therapist, so part of your job is to help people realize stuff. I mean, that's like, it's kind of crazy. That's your skill set. So do you ever find yourself in a relationship and you're like, oh my God, if they could just realize this?
Yes, I was just literally a couple hours ago talking to a friend about this and about how easy it is at times, especially for us caregivers out in the world, to want to fix and to realize somebody else's potential and want to be able to do whatever we can to have them realize that too, so we can finally date them. But it never works. The only person who can realize their own potential is themselves, and to be able to do that work themselves too. I think we have another call though.
Oh my God, that's 3. My goal is to get 5.
Hey, caller, are you there? Hey, caller.
Hey, Matthew?
Yeah.
Jimmy?
Hey.
Hi.
Okay. Can't really tell if you guys could hear me.
Oh, yeah, no, we can hear you. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name's Phil. I'm calling from Chicago. I'm a late 20s guy trying to kind of figure out life and dating. My question kind of has to do with an ex, if that's okay.
Okay.
Great. I love it.
Okay. So my first relationship was definitely my most significant relationship that I've experienced so far. We were together for 2 years, and our relationship started off dating for a year, and then he moved to Chicago to be closer to me. And then the ending of the relationship felt like it was kind of abrupt, and I was in therapy, he was not, and I felt like that was kind of a difficult way for us to navigate forward when one was practicing self-reflection and the other didn't necessarily know how to relate to that. And I was struggling so much after that because it felt like all those first things that we experienced together, you know, and
Hey, so?
And sometimes like bump into each other, you know, and it's this awkward thing because one of the things he had said to me.
Hey, Sol, real quick, I hate to cut you off, but we probably caught about 60% of that. So you're kind of breaking up. You might be in a bad cell area. So if you could just if in a nutshell, what's your question, just so we can make sure we're getting it?
Yeah, how do you handle that those like sort of moments when you might see somebody from your past who meant a lot to you at one point, but now they mean something different, you know?
And so you see this person, and did a feeling still come up, or it's kind of like you don't know how to like place those old feelings with this new kind of like this new role that they have in your life?
Yeah, exactly.
My immediate
strange feeling.
Of course, it's a strange feeling.
I think it's the fucking worst.
A lot of people think that you can just move into friendships really quickly, really easily. That should be a no-brainer. Everybody's on board. but obviously things are a bit layered and complex. So I would just say communication. Just have a conversation with them. If you're really upfront and just, say, hey, look, do you think this is possible? Could we be friends? Let's give it a shot and move forward. Then cool. You can't control how other people are going to feel. All you're going to be responsible for is making sure to continuously check in with yourself and see how you're feeling about things. If you're feeling not jealous and cool and things are moving in a good direction as friends, great. If you're starting to feel something else coming up and it's becoming a little bit more challenging, then have that conversation. And you might have to figure some things out. There's nothing wrong with taking some space and time too.
Yeah.
And also, especially to relate it directly to dating too, you want to make sure that that's not something that's going to occupy space and time in your life that will actually, and sometimes conveniently, keep us from being available to dating other people. So also be mindful of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the funny situation was, so I met a guy through OkCupid, I can't talk, and we've been chatting, and I found out that he had gone and had dated my ex several months ago, and it kind of brought a lot of those feelings back to the surface for me.
Yeah,
and
it can be.
A year and a half, we both have tried to pursue new relationships, but then knowing that this person in particular had made a connection, and then had seen them and dated sort of long distance again. For a month and a half or 2 months, and so then I didn't know how to keep carrying that conversation on with this person that I was getting conversation.
Yeah. So let me just jump in and say this too. Also, be mindful of the fact that it's a different thing for us as gay men. It can be a smaller community. There's gonna be a lot of sharing that can happen sometimes.
It totally sucks.
It sucks. It can be a lot. But to be mindful of that, know that it's going to happen. Especially the older you get, there's gonna be even more instances of that happening too. So you got to check that. You got to be mindful of that happening and just know whatever boundaries you have about that specifically. If it's a deal breaker, then it's a deal breaker. But your pool's gonna be limited then.
That's happened to me, and also weird things that had happened where like my ex had dated this guy, like this one random guy, and I was dating a guy who was that guy's ex. Do you know what I'm saying? So it was like this weird like rectangle of love.
I would say triangulation, but there's so many more people.
There's so many more people. But yeah, it's like this weird
octagonish.
Yeah, it's like a weird like reality that we have as gay men where it's like it's not like husband and wife.
It's the reality.
Yeah,
right.
It is.
Totally.
It's very weird.
Yep. So, Saul, thanks so much for calling in. Appreciate that question.
Yeah. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, great meeting you. I love that he called you Matthew. It was like very like sweet and professional, but I guess that's what people call you.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of stuff online that were unlisted as Matthew, so either or.
Oh, okay.
Either or. Why don't we get one more question in before we
let's do it. Yeah.
Before we bring out Tristan.
Yes. He's going to be in a rare form tonight.
All right, let's do one more. So we've got a question from @JustCallMeJM who wants to know, I often find myself in dating scenarios feeling like things have gotten imbalanced or that I'm over-invested compared to the guy I'm interested in. Any tips for keeping things casual and not rushing while at the same time being genuine about the feelings I am experiencing? So I would say, the difference between being thirsty or being detached. How can you make sure that you strike the right balance so you're not either side of that coin?
That's great. That could be a great T-shirt, Matt.
What?
Like if it was like I'm thirsty but I'm not detached.
What if it's both? What do you think?
Then you're me.
Jimmy, what do you think? How do you strike the balance to make sure that you are somewhere in between? You're like no clue.
By the
way,
I
don't do
it's
that.
also so funny that this is like a podcast about dating because it's like I even like saw like one guy who I'd like gone on a few dates with commented it was like the topic is dating, and like this guy that I had gone on a few dates with I was a fucking train wreck. He was like he commented, he's like, I cannot believe that you're talking about it. And I was like, so it's funny when these questions come up, but it's also great to hear your, point of view and everyone who calls in because we're all kind of just like figuring it out together.
Totally,
it's not like we have all the answers, but
need to hear your perspective too because you have such a great perspective on it, and also can maybe wrestle with it in some ways that a lot of people are going to relate to, and myself included even.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
So to answer that question, I mean, I think just honesty is the best policy, because I think you'll never regret being honest about your feelings, you know? But at the same time, it is a balance, because for me personally, I get very wrapped up, and I've struggled with addiction in other areas. So then when I get that high of this connection of romance, it's easy for me to want to rush into it.
Yeah.
And I think that it's also a positive to take your time and really get to know the person, because the call that we had talking about, I think it was Miguel was talking about that person that he had in his mind, and I'm doing my own work on stuff, and as time goes on, I realize that I actually struggle with the same thing, where it's like I have this fantasy of this person, because I think we have opposite things, Matt. You want to fix someone, and I'm like, someone rescue me, you know. And so
I
it's
used to want to fix people. That was
that was
a
your
while
thing
ago.
How dare I? But that was your thing where you used to want that, and I used to have that thing where I was like, oh, like, come save me from myself.
Jimmy, is that what has brought us together today?
Maybe that is.
But look at us finding. Yes, but we're getting closer to the balance. We're striking that together. What a relationship.
But that's my take. I mean, what do you think about it in terms of?
I agree with you. I think all that we can ever do is just try to be as self-reflective and aware as we can be, checking in with ourselves, knowing that there's no way we're ever going to be 100% balance on every single thing that we do, just so long as we're able to check in with ourselves, which means that we're not just immediately reacting off of to whatever's going on. So we're not being like, quote unquote, thirsty and constantly pining after somebody and being like, why aren't you calling me? Why aren't you texting me? You know, giving ourselves a minute to breathe and lean into that. But at the same time, too, making sure that we are able to have those conversations. We can check in with the person that we're dating at some point. It's not going to be on the first date. It's not going to be in real immediate ways. But as long as we know that we've thought about it and have actively resisted, given ourselves a little bit of space before we need to do that, then we're checking in, and all we can do is keep practicing that. We'll all in our own lives be able to figure out a little bit more of what that right balance is, but as long as we're aware of it.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
Yeah. Are we out of time?
I think it's that time.
Because I was gonna say there's someone commenting on Facebook Live, but
let's do it. Let's do it real quick.
They just said, what is a healthy way to build back up being a healthy way to build back trust in a new relationship when a past relationship has torn down being able to trust someone. Not talking about cheating. They have in parentheses.
So when trust is an issue in past relationships, all that you can do is actively practice vulnerability with other people in your life, especially people that you feel as though you can trust, right? Like people that you've had some significant relationship with, like friends and family members, things like that. Be open, talk about the fears that you have, talk about the insecurities that you have, allow other people to be there for you, and that can help really strengthen the trust that you feel in other people in general. Gotcha. So strengthening trust within interpersonal relationships. Aside from that, also being able to check in with yourself, the relationship that you have with yourself. Are you making sure that you are, creating enough time for you to be able to do the things that you need to do, have appropriate boundaries, doing the things that you have passion about doing? Because when you're able to do those things and you're investing your time and energy into those things, then you're also really reaffirming to yourself that, oh yeah, I matter. And you begin to develop this really great trust that you have just internally. I can trust myself. I know that my gauge on life is going to be okay. That kind of thing. So that if anything ever happens and people, maybe kind of, do lie or fuck with me in some way, there's no way that I'm ever going to be able to anticipate and predict that. That's an unrealistic expectation that we have for ourselves. But sometimes we can feel like, oh God, how did I miss that? So nurturing
and
your own
you
relationship.
take it on, and then it changes your perspective on all your relationships.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, without further ado, you guys.
Here we go.
Okay, so you guys know how this works. We will go until Matt rings this bell. What'd you say?
Yeah, let's get it as close to the mic as we can.
Ryan, I'm so glad Ryan's back for this. Normally, he really helps me develop these. And here we go.
All right.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Tristan. How are you?
I'm just kind of annoyed about how dishonest people are in this freaking city, man.
Mm-hmm. Like, how so?
I like to be direct, okay? And you know how I really like to fuck deep? I've talked about it. I have no shame about my sex life. And if you want to shame me, I'll go see a different therapist.
Hey, I fully support the positivity that you have around your sex life. So, yes, you like to fuck deep.
So, I'm on Tinder, and I like to be, pretty upfront. So I'll tell them, I'll be like, just so you know, I'm long, I'm strong, and I'm down to get the cloth on, okay? And people all bailing on me left and right. And then I started reading this book, and I'm nervous I'm one of them.
I don't think there's anything I can do with that.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. I'm not even gonna try to respond. I've got nothing for that.
He came on too strong. I told you he was in the mood.
It was so loud. That's cool. But I'm really glad that we got to, make sure everybody knows it's cool to be sex positive at least.
Yeah. And also, like, that he threatens to leave you, like, a new level of, like, being scared for your job.
Oh my god, that was good. Okay. Well, we are all out of time. We're out of time for our show. Thanks, everybody, for checking in. Facebook Live, too, for asking us your questions
Thanks,
live.
guys.
But be sure to check back in next week.
Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
That's right.
And you can follow us on our social media at Into Talk Show. And really, it's like whatever you guys want. We're so open to what kind of stuff you want to see. And it makes it just about us coming together.
Totally. Yeah, so comment and tweet and all of that. Let us know what you want to hear. So this is a conversation for all of us. And everybody, always remember that today's a chance to uplift someone else so we can all rise together.
Because if you don't, you're absolute trash.